If you're someone that follows me on any of my socials, you'll probably notice I'm quite fond of countryside walks, because I post quite a lot of pictures or videos of my days out, purely because I like to. Although to be fair, when I'm outside, I'm not taking pictures and videos all of the time. Most of the time my phone's in my pocket, and I'm just taking in the air, having a little think, and I do think it's very relaxing, very therapeutic. And I would like to share some of those walks with somebody someday again, but in the meantime, it's quite nice to be by yourself and just have that clear thinking space. And it is, quite beautiful. But the one thing I will say, and maybe this is a me problem, maybe it's not, maybe it's a sign of the times, but the more and more I enjoy my walks, the more and more I feel as though these places I like to visit are on borrowed time, and that it won't be long now before they're all built on, before they're all taken over. And this isn't without precedent. I used to love going to Chichester Woods, but in 2020 I did it for the last time before lockdown, and I didn't return until maybe late 2022, which is when I discovered that they built a giant housing estate over most of it. Not all of it. A lot of it still exists as it was. But even then, it's only a matter of time. And I have to admit as well, there are some other places that I haven't been to in years. But it does, fill me with dread that I might go to one of these places one day and discover that they too have been built on. But the thing that really upsets me, aside from just the waste, is, we're, lectured to by the climate people, the climate alarmists. And I'm not someone who instantly disbelieves that humans have an impact on the world around them. But these climate alarmists just make no sense. So they'll tell us that we're harming the environment just by putting rubbish in the wrong bin. Or they'll push for laws which mean that we all have to have our homes, up to net zero standards. And if we don't, then we get fined like a ridiculous amount. Not prosecuted, because obviously a prosecution involves them having to put their money where their mouth is, take us to court, and possibly we be found not guilty. Whereas a fine, you can slap a price on things. And sure, people can appeal, but the appeals process is probably very different to a trial. And of course, a law like that, if it's not strongly defined, you can change the parameters at any time. You can spend all this money doing up your house, and then find out a week later that there's some new system you have to put in, and you're not given any notice. So these climate alarmists will go to all this trouble, and then build on all of the green spaces, like indiscriminately, like obsessively. Like the Labour Party in the UK have just announced that they're going to be relaxing some of the planning laws to make building houses easier. And they're talking about this without any consideration of the consequences that green spaces will be taken away. And once you take them away, they're very difficult to get back. But they don't have any consideration for this. But they will then lecture us for making a minor violation of, the eco code, I guess. It's very much like all these climate summits where all these powerful people go to these events to lecture others about climate change. But they'll go in private jets. And people like to mock people that call this out. Like, oh, you're saying the same things over and over again. Oh, you're being predictable. And it's like, well, hang on a second, the reason it's repetitive is because it's true. You can mock people for saying it, but have you got like a counterpoint? Surely if someone is, lecturing people on, I don't know, taking their car to the local supermarket, maybe they shouldn't be doing it from a really filthy, polluting private jet. But that's one of the problems I have about climate alarmism. I'm not a climate denier, but there are people who will use a crisis or a perceived crisis for their agenda. But the thing is, I just don't want the English countryside gone. I don't want the whole country to be another London. I grew up in London, and I always remember that when my aunt moved to this very street that I live on now, on the coast, 2 years before we did, we would come down pretty much every weekend. And the first thing that hit me as we returned to London on Sunday nights was just how built up it was, how enclosed it was. And that's one of the things I like about where I live now. But the problem is with any kind of online discourse is if you call out something that's bad, whether it be a political decision or even a narrative change in a TV show that you like on a TV forum, you always get those bootlickers that come out to defend rigorously the bad idea. Almost like they started at the decision that they were going to defend it and then worked to find some kind of, points to back up that defence. And they get really into it, and then you say to them, well, why do you want this so much? And they'll say something like, oh, no, I don't want this. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I hate people like that. And one of the defences I've seen online regarding the destruction of green spaces is, well, at least we'll still have parks. But the thing is that parks suck, okay? The park, the woodlands, the forests, they're all open spaces. You can get lost in them. I got lost up Box Hill once with my dog back in 2006. Box Hill in Surrey. That was a bit worrying, but when I say lost, I mean lost from all your troubles, basically. But the thing about a park is it's a finite space. It's, it's green, it's got grass, it's got trees, but it's also got railings around it and gates that are locked after a certain time. They've usually got very obnoxious, petty, bullied at school dictators running the place. Not only that, but on public holidays or summer holidays, those places become packed with other people, so you don't even get to enjoy the privacy. And then you have all those days where you go to the park and some charity or some community event has decided to co-opt the place so that you can't go anywhere without loud music, or some really milquetoast comedian, quote unquote, telling the most awful jokes in the world, the sort that make you groan. And it's a poor substitute. I will honestly say, and I'm probably going to title this video, when it comes to the open woodlands or the forests, parks are very much, they suck, basically. They're like a plastic, substitute. So, if you're ever in a position of power, I guess the moral of the story is don't build on all the green spaces, please. And you'll forever have my gratitude.